Riana Manuel Pena worked in the games industry in publishing and development. She's now a consultant and content creator and presents a podcast called Gamer Tag Radio. Rihanna, thanks for coming on the program. Just give us a bit more context on those job losses. Raj there talking about the number of layoffs, but what about the number of jobs that were created? Is there a net loss or a net gain?
It's definitely closer to a net loss across the board. However, there are some standout companies like Nintendo, for instance, who are hiring more than others are letting go. So there will always be a certain amount of attenuation that we can expect. But as Raj mentioned, 40, 50% increase in layoffs year over year. And that's just what we know about is a concerning trend. And we do anticipate that to continue into 2025.
What about projected growth in the gaming industry in 2025? I think it's projected to grow by about 15% in the PC and console game software market. What's behind that growth?
Behind that growth is essentially software sales and microtransactions. We're seeing a huge boom in the area of live service games. These are things a lot of people recognize, like Fortnite or Roblox, or even Call of Duty more recently has implemented a platform strategy as opposed to individual game sales being the focus. And that works. People like those additional bonuses and cosmetics and passes within the games that they're already invested their time in, and we can see that as an exponential growth area because those players are very committed to those games. We don't see players moving from a live service game to a new one very often. So the more that any company can index on their existing player base, the more growth potential they have there.
And there are some upcoming systems, aren't there, from those three big players: Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. What impact do you think they could have?
It's less and less every year, right? So we see Nintendo coming out with a follow up to the Switch, which is the second best selling game console of all time, second to the PlayStation 2, and that's highly anticipated. The Switch is long in the tooth for a lot of console generations, and the it's a very dedicated audience that Nintendo has. Again, beloved across the industry, and actually seeing growth both in the job market as well as for their customer base. So there's a lot of energy around that. However, the other consoles and console manufacturers are starting to focus a lot more on platform and software strategies as opposed to making revenue on the actual hardware sales.
So tell me about that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of activity in the cloud gaming space. Microsoft has a product called Cloud Gaming that they've been working on for many years now, that is available in lots of markets and seeing a lot of success and mass adoption. We've seen cloud gaming for many, many years from companies like NVIDIA. Sony has some on premises streaming that they've been working with as well. But more and more, the capabilities of the technology are allowing these publishers and game makers to provide their games to people regardless of what platform they're on. And we see as the walls come down from the different platforms, the player base increases and the dedication and the time spent and active users also increase.
So,
So that is a strategy that a lot of the publishers and manufacturers are starting to move towards.
and are we going to see more in terms of in-play payments, things that you can buy whilst playing rather than new games coming out?
I think you'll see a combination of both. There's always a lot of motion, in new games and excitement around indies and double A spaces where they're not tied exclusively to a large publisher or platform. However, we definitely see a lot of motion around in-game transactions, and especially as you mentioned, with recent legislation tearing down some of the walls
Mm,
in mobile app stores, so where Google
okay.
and Apple are forced to play with each other and provide alternate payment systems within their apps, there's a lot more space and room for growth. And we've seen companies like Epic and Microsoft already dipping their toe into that new world.
And just finally and quickly, Rihanna, are you excited about 2025 in the gaming industry?
Oh, I'm always excited about the gaming industry. There's so much innovation, and it's one of those entertainment formats that has unique sense of empathy because you really are put into another place,
Yeah.
another world. And I think there's just the sky is the limit for the types of experiences that we can see, especially in 2025 as we welcome even more players and even more platforms.
Thank you very much, Rihanna Manuel Pena, for joining us today.